The morning sun rose gently over the serene lake, casting a golden glow on the misty shore. Lucas breathed deeply, taking in the fresh mountain air. He savored the tranquility of this moment, a stark difference from his busy city life. His yearly fishing expedition with his friend Roberto was a tradition he eagerly anticipated, a beloved ritual that offered an escape from daily pressures and a chance to enjoy nature's simple joys. Roberto inquired, grinning with enthusiasm as he expertly put together his fishing rod. "You ready to catch some real trophy-sized ones today, Lucas?" "Yeah, I'm ready," I replied, matching his enthusiasm. Franca packed enough snacks to feed an army. The mere mention of his wife's name brought a genuine, heartfelt smile to Lucas's face. Franca, his high school sweetheart, had been by his side for over a decade, and their bond seemed to grow stronger each year. "She's the best, isn't she?" Lucas mused, his gaze softening as he thought of his beloved wife. "After all these years, I still feel like the luckiest man alive to have her in my life." Roberto nodded, a hint of wistfulness in his eyes. "Must be nice," he remarked, his voice tinged with a touch of envy. "Ever since my breakup with Samantha, I've been starting to wonder if the whole relationship thing isn't for me," he expressed. He let out a heavy sigh, his shoulders sagging slightly. "I see how happy you and Franca are, and it makes me question my own decision to swear off love." I clapped him on the back. "Don't say that, Roberto. Relationships require effort, but when you find the right person, it's truly rewarding. Franca and I have encountered various challenges, yet we've consistently supported each other, no matter what." As we pushed off from the shore, the gentle rocking of the boat and the serene stillness of the lake enveloped us. For a few blissful hours, it was just the two of us, our fishing rods, and the promise of a bountiful catch. The afternoon sun beat down on us as we lounged on the shore, taking a well-deserved break from casting our lines. Roberto cracked open another cold beer, and I couldn't help but chuckle at his increasingly exaggerated tales of his latest automotive exploits. He was always a bit of a car enthusiast, regaling me with his adventures tinkering under the hood or racing on the open road. His infectious enthusiasm and lively storytelling never failed to entertain. Suddenly, the peaceful moment was interrupted by the buzzing of my phone in my pocket, startling me from our easy camaraderie. I glanced at the screen and saw a text message from our neighbor, Mrs. Harper. "Everything okay?" Roberto asked, noticing the slight furrow of my brow as I read the message. I shook my head, rereading the text carefully. "It's Mrs. Harper. She says there's been a man with a black car hanging around our house a lot since we left for the trip," I explained, a flicker of unease stirring within me. Roberto let out a low whistle, his expression turning slightly more serious. He inquired, his voice tinged with worry. "That's not eerie in the least. Do you suppose it's a burglar surveying the area?" I paused, considering the implications of Mrs. Harper's message. My initial instinct was to dismiss it as nothing, but the thought of a suspicious stranger lurking around our home while we were away sent a chill down my spine. "Nah, it's probably nothing," I replied, "maybe just a solicitor or something." But Roberto wasn't convinced. He took a swig of his beer, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "You sure it's not Franca's secret lover? Maybe she's been waiting for you to go on this trip so she can have her way with him." I punched his arm, harder than I intended. "Don't even joke about that, man. Franca would never cheat on me." Roberto held up his hands in surrender, but the damage was done. His words had planted a seed of doubt in my mind, one that wouldn't be easily uprooted. The drive back was tense, the silence broken only by the occasional snippets of conversation. Roberto had apologized for his offhand comment, but the unease lingered between us like a thick fog. "Look, Lucas," Roberto said, breaking the silence. "I was out of line back there. Franca loves you, and you guys are solid. I'm just bitter after the whole Samantha thing." I forced a smile, but my mind kept drifting back to Mrs. Harper's text. What if there was more to this than a simple misunderstanding? "I know, man," I said, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "But what if there is something going on?" Roberto shot me a sideways glance, his brow furrowed. "You can't be serious, Lucas. Franca would never do that to you." But the seed of doubt had taken root, and no amount of reassurance could shake it loose. I needed to see for myself, to confront this head-on. "I have to go home," I said, my voice resolute. "I have to know for sure." Roberto opened his mouth to protest, but one look at my determined expression seemed to convince him otherwise. He nodded, his lips pressed into a thin line. The miles ticked by, each passing minute adding to the weight of dread that settled in the pit of my stomach. What if Roberto was right and I was overreacting? But what if he was wrong and my world was about to come crashing down around me? I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. One way or another, I was about to find out the truth. The drive back home felt like an eternity, each mile compounding the dread that weighed heavily in my chest. Roberto remained silent, his knuckles white from gripping the door handle. "I'm sure it's nothing, Lucas," he said finally, his voice unconvincing. "Franca loves you, man." I didn't respond, my mind too preoccupied with the endless possibilities of what awaited us. As we pulled into the driveway, the house loomed before us, dark and ominous. "Let's go in through the back," I whispered, my heart pounding in my ears. We crept around the side of the house, careful not to make a sound. Using the spare key, I unlocked the door, and we stepped inside, the darkness enveloping us like a shroud. That's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of muffled laughter and rustling fabric. My blood ran cold as I exchanged a wordless glance with Roberto. Slowly, we made our way towards the living room, our footsteps muffled by the plush carpet, and then I saw them, Franca and a strange man, locked in a passionate embrace on our couch. No, I breathed, the word catching in my throat. Roberto sprang into action, fumbling for his phone and hitting record. The harsh light from the screen illuminated the scene before us, capturing every sordid detail. Franca gasped, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Lucas, what are you?" But I couldn't speak, couldn't move. All I could do was watch as the life I knew crumbled around me. "You lying bitch." The words tore from my throat, raw and primal. Franca recoiled as if struck, her hands clutching the rumpled fabric of her dress. The man beside her leaped to his feet, his eyes darting towards the door. "Lucas, please, let me explain," Franca pleaded, her voice trembling. But I was beyond reason, consumed by a white-hot rage that blinded me to everything but the betrayal before my eyes. "Don't you dare," I roared, advancing towards them. "You've been screwing this piece of trash behind my back." The man made a break for the door, but Roberto was quicker. He tackled him to the ground, the phone clattering from his grasp and skidding across the hardwood floor. "I'm sorry, Lucas." Franca sobbed, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake. I grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her violently. "A mistake? You think cheating on me was a mistake?" Her eyes widened in fear, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But the image was fleeting, replaced by the harsh reality of her betrayal. "Get out," I snarled, releasing her. "Both of you, get the hell out of my house." The early morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a harsh glow on the chaos that surrounded us. Franca sat huddled on the driveway, her belongings strewn around her like the shattered pieces of our life together. "Lucas, please," she begged, her voice hoarse from crying. "Give me another chance. I'll do anything." But her pleas fell on deaf ears. The rage had subsided, replaced by a numbness that settled deep in my bones. The man, Kent, I'd later learn, struggled against Roberto's grip. His face contorted in a mixture of fear and defiance. "You're gonna regret this, you son of a bitch," he spat. His words slurred and venomous. I stepped forward, my fist clenched at my side. "The only thing I regret is not putting you in the hospital." Roberto held him tight as I delivered a few calculated blows, careful to avoid visible injuries and assault charges. Kent crumpled to the ground, clutching his ribs and wheezing for breath. "Now get the hell off my property," I growled. Before I changed my mind, Franca watched in silent horror, her sobs the only sound in the stillness of the morning. As Kent scrambled to his feet and limped away, I turned to face the woman I had once loved more than life itself. "And you," I said, my voice heavy with finality, "if you know what's good for you, you'll disappear. Because if I ever see your face again, I can't be held responsible for what I might do." With a final, anguished cry, Franca gathered her things and fled, leaving me alone in the wreckage of our life together. But I wasn't alone, not really. Roberto stood by my side, a silent pillar of strength and loyalty. "I've got the whole thing on video," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "We'll make them pay for what they did to you, Lucas. I swear it." And in that moment, consumed by heartbreak and a burning desire for vengeance, I knew that no matter what came next, I would never be alone again. The days that followed were a blur of rage and anguish. I wandered through the house like a ghost, haunted by the memories of the life I had lost. Franca's betrayal had left a gaping wound in my soul, one that festered with every passing moment. "Lucas, man, you gotta snap out of this," Roberto said, his voice cutting through the haze of my despair. "We need to make a plan." I looked up, my eyes hollow and empty. "A plan?" Roberto nodded, his jaw set in a hard line. "Yeah, a plan for revenge. Those two pieces of trash need to pay for what they did to you." At first, the idea seemed absurd, a childish notion born of anger and hurt. But as the days dragged on, the desire for vengeance took root, consuming me from the inside out. "You're right," I said finally, my voice steady and resolute. "They can't get away with this." We retreated to my home office, poring over Franca's social media accounts with a newfound determination. Using the passwords I knew, we uncovered a trove of damning evidence, explicit texts, steamy photos, and a web of lies that stretched back months. "This is it, Lucas," Roberto said, his eyes alight with a mixture of triumph and disgust. "We've got everything we need to bury them." Fueled by a burning sense of justice, we set to work. Using a VPN to mask our digital footprints, we created an anonymous account and crafted a post that would expose Franca's infidelity to the world. "Are you sure about this?" Roberto asked, his finger hovering over the post button. I didn't hesitate. "Do it." With a few keystrokes, the floodgates opened. We tagged Franca and her family, her friends, and shared the post in every local group we could find. Within hours, it had gone viral, spreading like wildfire through the digital grapevine. As the likes and shares poured in, a twisted sense of satisfaction washed over me. Franca and Kent would soon feel the weight of their actions, the public humiliation they so richly deserved. The fallout was swift and merciless. Franca and Kent, it turned out, were colleagues at a local marketing firm. When the damning evidence of their affair surfaced online, their employer wasted no time in terminating their contracts. "Please, Lucas, you have to take it down," Franca had pleaded over the phone, her voice thick with tears. "We've lost our jobs, our reputations, everything," but her cries fell on deaf ears. I was beyond pity, beyond mercy. "You did this to yourselves," I snarled, hanging up on her anguished sobs. Kent, the smooth-talking, found himself on the receiving end of his own medicine. A quick call to his wife was all it took to shatter his carefully constructed facade of lies. "You're a dead man, Mitchell," he had raged, pounding on my front door with wild, desperate eyes. "You hear me? Dead." But his threats rang hollow, carrying no weight beyond the impotent fury of a man who had lost everything. With a few choice words and the threat of making our video evidence public, Roberto and I sent him scurrying back into the shadows from whence he came. As the dust settled, Franca and Kent found themselves pariahs, outcasts in the very community they had once called home. Friends turned their backs, families disowned them, and the once bright futures they had envisioned crumbled to ash. It was a bitter, hollow victory, but a victory nonetheless. The gentle lapping of the lake's waters was a soothing balm to my wounded soul as Roberto and I settled into our familiar fishing spot. A month had passed since the nuclear fallout of Franca's betrayal, and the divorce papers had finally been signed, sealed, and delivered, Roberto said, casting his line into the serene waters. "Never thought I'd see the day, Lucas, free at last." I cracked a smile, the first in what felt like an eternity. "Yeah, they say when one door slams shut, another opens, and I'm ready to bust through that next door like a battering ram." Roberto chuckled, taking a swig of his beer. "So, what's the plan, my friend?" "Gonna hit the town like a rock star. Play the field like a pro." The thought made my stomach do a barrel roll. After all the drama, the idea of diving back into the dating pool made me want to run for cover. "Nah, man, I'm good. I need a break from all that. Just gonna focus on me, myself, and I for a while." Roberto nodded in solidarity. We'd been through the ringer, but we'd emerged on the other side, battle-scarred but still standing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and red, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The storm had passed, and I could finally breathe again. Franca's face flashed in my mind, her tear-stained cheeks and pleading eyes begging for a second chance. But I pushed the image away, resolute in my decision. That chapter of my life was closed, a painful lesson learned, and a new path forged from the ashes of betrayal. As the stars twinkled in the black sky, I cast my line into the water, ready for the next adventure life had in store. Thus, our story concludes. Thank you for joining me on this wild ride. Remember to hit subscribe for more captivating tales. How has our story put yourself in my place, and let me know if I did well or not. Share your thoughts in the comments.